other interesting culture news, you have Disney streaming losing millions of subscribers and trying to raise prices. So you have the CEO of Disney, Bob Iger, who again he's brought back to try to fix the company that Bob Chapek made some terrible business blunders under his tenure. Although Bob Iger did actually help groom him for the position of taking over as CEO. So some people would say, why are you getting him back? But I digress. Now, he noted that the company, in terms of good news for Disney, there's a silver lining in there. Bob Iger recently noted that the company's on track to hit $5.5 billion in anticipated cost savings. All this while their direct-to-consumer losses shrank. So their total revenue is $22.3 billion fiscal fourth quarter, and is down 2%, shy of their forecast. But in terms of the shrinking losses, that is good because, of course, anytime you start a new initiative or you have new things going out, the upfront cost is usually pretty darn big. That's why companies like Tesla, automotive companies especially, they're setting up these giant factories. That's hundreds of millions of dollars. So the first couple of vehicles are going to be depending on how you amortize and measure the cost, they're going to be at a negative by default just because of that big upfront cost. And over time, the upfront cost is spread across all the vehicles and slowly become more profitable. Now, it looks like their linear television was actually softer, and that's where for some reason, they still have cable, like cable TV, which, again, my 3 cents, they need to sell that asset now because whatever it's worth tomorrow, it's going to be less than today because, again, less and less and less and less of people are actually signing up for cable. Let me know in the comments if you're moving into a new house or you rent apartments, do you ever click that box that says, yeah, we want a cable box? I mean, I've never bought cable in my life, and I've mostly lived at apartments. This is my first rental house. I use it. I rented it primarily for the 2 podcasts I have, but I've never actually clicked that button or said, yeah, I wanna definitely get a good old cable box. It's just we have the internet. Now, in terms of the fiscals, it looks like there's a big $2.44 billion content impairment charge related to the removing content from its direct-to-consumer service and terminating third-party licensing agreements, plus another $210 million hit from severance. Now, of course, this is coming as he also wants to cut about 7,000 jobs in total over the year because there's a lot of overhead. And it looks like the company swung a net loss of $490 million for its fiscal fourth quarter from a $4.1 billion profit the year before. Now, going on to Disney Plus, their subscription service, they said that Disney Plus had 141.6 million global paid subscribers at the end of June, down from the last quarter. Now, this is excluding Disney Plus Hotstar, which lost 12.5 million in June and April from the April quarter. Now, their core Disney Plus subs rose to 105.7 million from 104.9 million sequentially. But the hit from the Hotstar was expected after Disney declined to renew its rights to cricket, which, again, Disney is a global company, but that's not their main wheelhouse. That's not their forte. So it makes sense for them to drop that, but it's hilarious to think they're having it at all to begin with. Now, it looks like ESPN Plus subs were also flatlining at about 25.2 million, and Hulu's 44 million SVOD subs were up from 43.7 million. Now, Live TV Plus and SVOD was 4.3 million for a 48.3 million total Hulu. Now, I'll be interested to see what happens to those numbers as they start to integrate the two. I think legally they need to buy out Comcast for the remaining shares of Hulu, because right now they do own a majority stake in the company. Actually, I think they did announce that a couple months ago. So the question is the integration and the adoption rates. Will people drop them all together? Do they really only want one and now they don't want the other? It'll be interesting to see where they go from there. Now, it looks like at linear networks, their profits fell 23% to 1.9 billion on sales of 6.69 billion, down 7% stateside. And Disney noted his lower advertising revenue and viewership at ABC, which, again, why do you still have ABC? Is it nostalgia, I guess? Because Bob Iger, a few of the things I do admire about the man, he's certainly done some things in terms of his prudent business decisions. He did start up from the ground up at ABC, and then subsequently they were later acquired by Disney. He worked himself up the corporate ladder. So it's a cliche, but it is the true American success story. But to still have that right now, I don't know what's going to go on in terms of them actually making more money from cable in the near future. Now, in terms of their parks, it looks like the parks experiences, they saw sales up 13% to $8.5 billion, with an increase of just 4% in domestic parks and 94% at international parks, some of which were still plagued by the Poke related closures. And it looks like international parks swung a profit of $428 million, while income was down 13% to $1.4 billion stateside. So they got a lot of issues going on at Disney. It'll be interesting to see. The stock did go up because shareholders were happy to hear that they're going to increase the prices for Disney Plus and Hulu. But it is also one of those issues where, again, 40-year hyperinflation. It's the worst inflation in 40 years. Economic uncertainty at its peak. People don't know what's going to go on for a myriad of reasons, both geopolitically as well as local politically. A lot of people are starting to pull back on their budgets. And again, Disney Plus is a luxury. You don't need it. Books are free. Go to the library, I always tell folks. But it's one of those things where how many families are going to cut back on that? Because, again, it's a luxury. Times are tough. And the actual content, many people are arguing, getting worse and worse and worse as they inject more and more politics into content that you just don't need to have it there. So it'll be interesting to see, can Disney come up from this nosedive? Are you still subscribing to Disney Plus? Let me know in the comments. Be interested to see what you have to say. Thank you, everyone, again, for taking the time to tune in. Really want to appreciate you clicking that subscribe button. Trying to get to 3,000 subscribers by the end of the month. We greatly appreciate it. Also, don't forget to take the time to like as well as comment. Those also greatly appreciate. Really make the content a lot better as we appreciate the critical feedback. Also, don't forget to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone to stay safe and fight the good fight.